Hey guys! In today's video I wanted to share with you a method to set up your browser in such a way that you can look up words in online dictionaries quickly and efficiently. And specifically we're going to be talking about the Firefox browser. So let's go ahead and jump right in. And over here I have my Firefox window open. And a small detail to mention is that I'm using not exactly the Firefox, the normal Firefox, but I'm using the Waterfox browser. But everything that I'm going to be explaining in this video will work the exact same way in Firefox. So the method that I wanted to share with you is basically a way to set up things in such a way that you can look up words by typing a keyword in your URL bar, like this for example, and then searching for a word. And then when you hit enter, you will the website will open and it will search for the word automatically. So some of you might be familiar with the fact that Firefox has like search engines built in, and so this is one way to do this. But there's actually another method that I'm going to show to you as well. Because not all websites provide those search engines. So that's why I wanted to make this video and show you how you can set up things for those websites that don't provide a search engine. So, but first, let's just quickly take a look at how you can add a search engine to your browser. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this Wiktionary engine that I have installed here. And basically, in order to add it, you simply right-click on the URL bar, and here you'll have this menu option to add that search engine into your browser. And so then it will appear here amongst all of the other search engines that are available in the browser, and you can set up things the way you want. I personally prefer to set up a keyword so that I can use the search quickly the way that I already showed you. So I'm gonna set it up the way it was, and you can tick this like this tick mark here, and if you do that, it will also appear over here, and you can click it with the mouse. But I prefer to leave it unticked because I never use a mouse for this purpose. So this is one method, but sometimes basically you'll have a website that doesn't provide that search engine like this. Also, if you're running an older version of Firefox, you can do the same by clicking a three-dot icon here, and then a menu will open, and you can basically add the search engine from there as well. So that's just a note for users of older versions of Firefox. So let's see. So that's the first method of adding a search engine. Another method is to add a bookmark, and you can set up a keyword in the bookmark as well. And you can also set up the URL in the bookmark in such a way that it will work essentially the same way as these search engines do. So let me see. So I'm going to go ahead and open my library window, which you can do by going over here either to bookmarks or to history, and you can click either show all history or manage bookmarks. So I'll do that. My library window is slightly customized, so it will look a bit different from yours, but it's the same thing. So let's see. So I'm going to go ahead and go to this folder that I have here. So as you can see, I have here set up I have here bookmarks set up for searches in different language versions of Wiktionary. So sometimes it's useful to just be able to quickly look up a word in a different dictionary in this way. And you could also, like for Wiktionary specifically, you could just add search engines for each site, because the Wiktionary has this option available. But there are also other websites that don't provide that option, and I'll talk about those websites a bit later, I guess. But for example, this Reverso Context dictionary, which is very good, and I'm gonna talk about it a little bit as well. It doesn't have this search engine available, so I set up a bookmark to basically do the same thing. But so I was talking about this example with Wiktionary. So let's, for example, try this one. So I'll first just show you how it works. So I have this keyword set up here, and I just type this w-nl to search in the Dutch Wiktionary, and I'll search for a word, and it basically does the same thing. Like, the only visual difference that I noticed in the newest version of Firefox, or in Firefox it's probably the same thing, is that when you use a search engine, it'll show it like this when you hit space. But if it's set up as a bookmark, then it's not going to do that. But otherwise it works exactly the same. And in older versions of the browser, it looked exactly the same as well. So this is how this works. So how do you set this up? There's essentially two ways to do this. The first way is to find the search bar on the website that you want to set this up for, and then right-click it. And here you will have the option to add a keyword for this search. So if you click it, you'll have this window pop up. You can name it whatever you want, and then you can add a keyword. I'll just add something random here for the demonstration purposes. Then click save or hit enter, and then the bookmark will appear in the folder that you selected in that window. And this is basically it. And it'll set up the URL for you automatically. So sometimes that's possible, but for some websites, I'm not sure exactly why it doesn't work. For some like search boxes like this, like these search fields on some websites, it just doesn't work. So you right click it, and so you right click it. So you essentially right click it and you won't get this option. So in that case, you can still set it up, but you need to just take the URL and set it up yourself. So the way it works is, I'm going to delete this because I don't need that, I already have it set up. So if we take a look at this URL, you essentially need to find the place in the URL where the search term goes, and then you need to type %s, and then you need to set a keyword. So you can just add a bookmark as normal, like for example like this. You can use the shortcut Control-D or Command-D on a Mac, or you can click this star here and then you can add the bookmark. So let me just create a bookmark in the menu here, and then just save it so you'll have a bookmark. And let's see, so once you have that, you can name it whatever you want, and then you'll have the URL. And like here, for Wiktionary, it's actually better to use this URL, which you can also find out by simply searching something here that is nonsensical, and then you'll get this URL, but usually it doesn't show up. But the point is that basically you just need to figure out which part of the URL you need to replace with your search term. So let's just pretend that this website doesn't have any, when you right click here, you don't get this option here. So in that case, you can just make a bookmark like I just showed, and you can already see here that the word goes in here, and so you can just simply replace it with %s, and I'll add a random keyword to just demonstrate. So now if I type that keyword and then I type a space and then the search term and hit enter, it'll do the same thing. So it essentially just replaces the part of the URL that you define here, like in this way, where you put the %s, and then it just goes to that URL. So that is how this works. So let me see. I use this Wiktionary website to show like all the examples, but like probably this Reverso Context. What is it? Oh, it's context. Okay, so context.reverso.net, a very useful dictionary like to know about, because it can like give you translations and like give you examples of words in context. I'll talk about the dictionary itself in a bit, but basically let's just go with English French like this by default, and let's search for a word. And so here you can do the same thing, so you can replace the word with the %s and set up the bookmark in the same way that I just showed. But you can see that like if I right click here, let me see, if I right click here, I don't get any add search engine option. And also if I right click this search bar, there is no add keyword option either. So for this website, the only way to set it up is to just create a bookmark and then set up this URL manually, and that way you get the same functionality, and you can look up words very easily. Like for example, maybe I'm wondering something about like how let's say I want to see examples to how, like for example, to say, I don't know, something like how are you in Dutch, like how do people say how are you in Dutch. So I can just quickly type that thing in the URL bar without going to the website, without doing all that extra work. And here I get a bunch of examples of how that thing is said in Dutch. So this is very useful. Let me see. So I also wanted to quickly talk about a few online dictionaries that I personally use a lot, and I'm going to talk about like you can see here that I have a bunch of things set up for different languages as well, but I'm just going to talk about the multilingual dictionaries in this video, and I'll also share my bookmarks in a file that you can import into your Firefox. So to explain that quickly, the file itself, let me show you, like if you're wondering, like the contents of the file look like this. So it's an HTML file with all these bookmarks there. So you'll get the same folder like I have this here, searches, but it's just going to be named differently. It's going to be named like this, linguistic line, links to online dictionaries, and you'll see it pop up in the bookmarks menu. So what you need to do is you need to go to this menu here and then click import bookmarks from HTML, and then find the file and then click open, and it'll import the bookmarks. And then you can use some of my bookmarks or all of them if you want to. And yeah, so if you want to do that, that's available. So now let's talk about those dictionaries. So the first one I wanted to talk about is Wiktionary. So Wiktionary is a very good way to look up words in multiple languages because, first of all, it's available in multiple languages and for multiple languages at the same time. So when I search for a word, I actually get entries for different languages in the language that this Wiktionary site is basically in the language that the website is. So this is an English Wiktionary, and I get English, like I get results in English for this word that I'm searched for. So basically, if the spelling kind of is the same, you'll get entries for this word in different languages. So this is how this works. But also, Wiktionary itself has versions in different languages, like I already showed you a Dutch version, for example, and you can pick a different Wiktionary website from this menu here. For example, let's just click this German Wiktionary here, and we go to German Wiktionary, and here we have the entry for the word language, but in German. So this is very good, and you can. So this essentially works the same way as Wikipedia. People submit definitions, and basically they write dictionary entries in that way. So it's a community-driven website. Anyone can contribute, and but like throughout my language learning journey, I've been using this website a lot because it's a very convenient way to quickly look up a definition, and usually the definitions are pretty good. Sometimes you won't be able to find things, but it's still very useful. And for the cases where you cannot find a definition on Wiktionary, you can use other dictionaries for those cases. But like for English specifically, there's lots of very good definitions here. For other languages, sometimes it's less so, but then you can also try and use like the language specific version. Like for example, if you're learning Spanish, it might make sense to look up definitions for Spanish words in the Spanish Wiktionary, because you'll get monolingual definitions there, like definitions in Spanish. And so, but for certain languages such as English, there's just more content available, but you can still find a lot here even for other languages. So actually, one thing that I kind of forgot to mention, that I wanted to mention, is that I highly recommend installing this add-on called Dark Reader. So essentially, it just makes reading websites much easier, and if you spend a lot of time in front of your computer reading websites, like staring at this white background really tires your eyes. And if you invert the colors and use the dark background and like white text, then reading websites becomes much easier and your eyes get much less tired. So I highly recommend you install Dark Reader. That's just a good tip for those people who spend a lot of time in front of their computer, which is a lot of people. So let's see. So we talked about Wiktionary. Another good monolingual dictionary, which is not really a dictionary, but basically it's Wikipedia. So I have this WK keyword set up for Wikipedia. I'm gonna search for the same word there. So Wikipedia is an encyclopedia, but it's also very good for looking up words in a language that you're learning. So for example, if I want to know how, like if I want to find out more information about how the concept of language is expressed in other languages, and there's a purpose to why I'm saying it in such a complicated way. But basically, let's first talk about the site. So you can look up the thing in the language that you are already speaking. Like for example, I looked up language in English Wikipedia, and then you can just go to this the corresponding article on Wikipedia in another language. So for example, let's go here to French, and here we can read actually about the idea of language in French, and we can also find the translation for the word as well. So it's kind of like an extended definition. So you can think of it like in that way, as just a very long definition, very detailed. So sometimes when you cannot figure out how like this concept is expressed in the language that I'm learning, Wikipedia might be the way to go. So this is a good way to look up things as well. So that's Wikipedia. So the third side that I wanted to talk about is this Reverso Context that I already used for like to demonstrate how to set up those bookmarks. But basically this website, what they did is they took the database of opensubtitles.org website. So essentially subtitles for like movies and TV shows translated to and from different languages. And they created this website where you can just look up words and search through that database and find like lines from actual movies and with their corresponding lines from the subtitle in a different language. So this is very good. You can also like take a peek here where it gives you some information about like where it was taken from, and you can see here that it was taken from Open Subtitles 2016 database, which is basically this. There's not a lot of like exact information about the source here, but it's still a very good way to check how things are said in a certain language, because it gives you much more examples. Sometimes you can't, if you're just wondering how people say something in a certain language, how an idea is expressed in that language. This Reverso.net website is very good for that. I'm just trying to think of like a good example to kind of show it. Let's see. So, for example, let's just say you're an English speaker and you're learning Dutch, and you're wondering what do people say in Dutch when they want to express the idea of I'm looking forward to it. So you can just type that here, or use your like keyword shortcut. But since I already have the website open, so I'll just do this to it like this. And here you'll get a bunch of examples of different ways to say this thing, so you can get an idea of what kind of things are said when people are trying to express this idea, like from the point of view of language learning methodology and like immersion based learning, which I use like as my language learning method. You basically where you just immerse in content in your target language, which is made for native speakers of that language, and you just immerse into to the point where you are able to tell what sounds natural and what's not, and then you eventually become able to form your own sentences and speak the language. So when you use such a dictionary, like I would still be cautious of actually using these phrases unless you heard them used in a context, like in an actual source before, like in an actual thing that you watch, like a movie, a TV show, a podcast, or something, where you heard it multiple times used, and you're sure that that's the way like that's an appropriate way to express what you want to express. Because like sometimes you can kind of use this phrase if you really have to say something and you're really struggling. Maybe you're like writing an email or something, and you really need to use that language, and you don't know how to say something, so you can use this dictionary as a crutch, but you still gotta be aware that like you cannot be really 100% sure from such a limited context, even though it's really good and it's taken from like actual movies and TV shows. Like there's still a lot of nuance going into this, and you cannot really like be 100% sure that if you say this, then it's gonna be like appropriate in the sense that not in the sense that you will offend someone necessarily, but it's just in the sense that it's the way that what a person who speaks Dutch fluently would say in the situation that you are like that you are in, like in the situation that you are trying to use the language. So that's just something to be aware of. But otherwise, this website is pretty good, and it can give you a lot of good hints as to how the language is actually used in real life. So there's that. And there's also another website. I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but basically this is kind of similar to Reverso, but I personally like it less. But Reverso doesn't have all the languages that I need. So sometimes, for example, for Norwegian, I would use this website. So let's look up something in Norwegian. I don't know. I'll use the same word that I was looking up. So I think they also took the they didn't take the subtitle database. They just took like multilingual websites with like I don't know like Google support pages and stuff like that. Like basically websites that have the same thing available in multiple languages, and they use that to build up their database. Let's see. So there's a bunch of like just normal dictionary stuff here. I'm not sure why there's this weird thing in the middle, but just ignore that. It's probably gonna show up fine for you. And here you have kind of a similar thing where you have an example from some native, like from a source that had that bilingual, like an article that was written in multiple languages or something like that. So you have an example from there, like in Norwegian, and the same thing in English. So that's pretty useful as well. And let me see, why is it? Yeah, I forgot to do that. So JavaScript was disabled, and that's why it didn't show up properly. But now that I enabled it, now it's all fine. And the reason I wanted to enable it is because here you can they also have link to source. So here you can see. It's probably really hard to see because the font is really small, but in the bottom left corner it says support.google.com. So this is taken from Google support pages, and they probably have other sources as well, but this is also from Google support. But I saw like other sources as well here, so they use they just use different articles that just happen to have been written in multiple languages, and they use that as their as the content for their database. So those two websites, Reverso and this bab.la, they are kind of similar, and they're very good because they provide examples in context, and they're good to search for example sentences and stuff like that. So let me see. The last website that I wanted to mention is this Forvo. I don't know how do you pronounce it. Forvo website. There we go, Forvo website. And this website is very good for looking up pronunciation. It's essentially kind of like Wikipedia, but not really, because they don't have like open source, not open source, but like Creative Commons license and stuff like that. But it's kind of similar because people contribute their pronunciations of words like in their native language. So for example, let's just look up something. Let me see. I don't think I can play sound right now because I don't have things hooked up in the right way. But let's just look up a word. Like search for language. Come on, yeah. So here we'll get a bunch of pronunciations of the word language in English, and here we can choose an accent. And I think like if you click here on this word, you'll be able to see all the different pronunciations, and like also the place where it was recorded as well. I think you can click on the username and get more information about the person, like if they provided the information where they are from and stuff, so you can get really like specific pronunciations from specific. This profile is not public, but I think you can, like I remember seeing like a map where it showed like the exact place where the person is from and stuff like that. Let's see, so this is a public profile, and here they have like the location information too, and then you can see all their pronunciations. So this is a really good source for looking up words, for looking at pronunciations of words like that you're just wondering how are pronounced, or not, that you're not sure how are pronounced. And like Wiktionary also has lots of audio files, but not for all languages. And sometimes like for languages like Chinese, I personally use Forvo a lot for Chinese. Like let's just look up a random word in Chinese, and you'll get pronunciations. You can get like pronunciations even like in different dialects if you are curious about that. So like it also, like Japanese obviously also pops up. Like here, like all the different varieties of Chinese, Japanese. Basically, this word in different languages and language variants. So this is very useful. A very good website to check, like if the way you think that the word is pronounced, that it's actually how it's pronounced. So this is Forvo, and essentially I think I'm gonna wrap up this video here. So I also have a bunch of bookmarks set up in the same way for other languages, like I have here, like Urban Dictionary Thesaurus for English and Merriam-Webster. Also Cambridge Dictionary has lots of dictionaries for different languages, so it can also be quite useful. I have a couple for German, for Norwegian, Danish, Chinese, and I have dictionary.org for Japanese, which is probably like not new for anyone who's learning Japanese. But the thing is that you can set up the bookmark in this convenient way, and you can even like set up one for kanji specifically, so that you can look up kanji quickly like this. Let's see, J-K space and then your character, and you'll get the information about that character quickly like this. So this is essentially it for this video. I hope you liked it. I hope it helps you to organize your kind of workspace where you learn your languages better and like set up things more conveniently and so that you can look up words quickly and more efficiently. So this is it. Thanks for watching. Like the video if you liked it. Subscribe to the channel if you'd like to see more of my content. And if you like the content, you can support Linguistic Mind by joining my Patreon or by leaving me a tip on Ko-fi. So this is it for this video. Thanks again a lot for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.